Heartwarming moment, CEO discovers incredible truth about single mom after a wrong number call. Thomas wiped his brow as he stared at the stacks of reports cluttering his desk, the glare from his computer screen piercing through the fog of exhaustion. The phone buzzed, and in a moment of frustration, he dialed the wrong number. "Hello?" sang a bright voice, and he almost chuckled at the unexpected cheerfulness on the other line. It was Sarah, a spirited single mother with dreams as big as her heart, trying to manage 2 jobs and a 5-year-old son named Jake. At first, Thomas dismissed it just a trivial distraction. But as Sarah shared snippets of her life, her fierce determination and infectious humor broke through his corporate shell. "You wouldn't believe Jake's definition of dinner is spaghetti with ketchup." She laughed, and he felt warmth spread through him. In that moment, everything felt lighter. Her struggles were fierce and real, yet she laughed in the face of them, revealing a golden thread of hope. Their conversations spanned weeks, each call a lifeline for both. She spoke of her relentless hustle, the long nights spent balancing 2 jobs to ensure Jake had what he needed. "He deserves better than what I had," she said, a hint of both pride and sadness in her tone. Thomas found himself rooting for her, captivated by her dreams for a brighter future, feeling a shameful disconnect from his own ambitions that felt easier, yet far less meaningful. But life had a way of throwing punches. One evening, after a long day in meetings, Thomas learned that budget cuts meant layoffs. The news sat heavy in his chest. He knew that Sarah's job was on the line. This was not just business for him anymore, it was entwined with the newfound friendship he cherished. In a tense board meeting days later, throttled by corporate greed, the stakes couldn't have been higher. Investors demanded profit-first ideas that meant sacrificing Sarah and countless others, risking their future. As dialogue spiraled into heated exchanges, Thomas's mind raced. Would closing his eyes and simply going along be easier? But then he thought of Sarah's laughter, the light in her eyes when she dreamed out loud for Jake's life. "Enough!" he roared, silencing the room. The shockwaves washed over his colleagues. He couldn't simply dismiss the people who depended on these jobs anymore. He presented an alternative, a bold move to prioritize people over profits, risking everything he had built. Would they understand? Could they even hear him? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The silence that fell was thick, a mixture of astonishment and dread. Had he just jeopardized his entire career? Meanwhile, Sarah waited anxiously beside her phone, her heart racing with possibilities. She had a lead on a better job, an opportunity that could finally change everything for her and Jake. As she reached for her phone to call Thomas, she held her breath, unaware that another twist awaited them both. Would fate intervene in the most unexpected way? As the meeting dragged on in silence, the weight of Thomas's declaration hung in the air. He looked around, meeting the eyes of his colleagues. Some looked shocked, others uncertain. He could almost hear their thoughts swirling. Has he lost it? What about the bottom line? Then, before the tension could boil over, Marcus, the CFO, cleared his throat. "Thomas, with all due respect, this isn't charity work. We have investors to consider. That's exactly it." Thomas interrupted. "These people are employees. They're not just numbers on a spreadsheet. They have families. They have dreams. I've spent too many years in this corporate bubble, chasing profits while ignoring the humanity behind the work we do." His heart was racing, a mix of adrenaline and fear. He wasn't just fighting for his position anymore, he was fighting for people like Sarah, who dared to dream bigger for themselves and their kids. He paused, searching for a way to make them see. Think about it. If we let these layoffs happen, how many lives will we wreck? It's not worth a few more dollars in the bank. Our company can still operate with integrity, prioritizing our employees. We can innovate and thrive without sacrificing the very foundation that got us here, our people. There was a murmur throughout the room. Some began nodding, while others exchanged glances filled with a blend of skepticism and intrigue. Thomas felt a glimmer of hope ignite within him. Meanwhile, Sarah had paced the small kitchen of her apartment as she waited for Thomas's call. Come on, she whispered into the void. The anticipation was unbearable. Her palms were sweaty, her heart was pounding. She had poured her life into her job for Jake, and it all seemed to hang in the balance. Finally, she could take it no longer. She dialed Thomas's number, praying he answered. What would she say? How would she express the gratitude she felt? Thoughts darted through her mind as she paced back to the living room, keeping one eye on Jake, who was happily immersed in his colorful blocks. After what felt like an eternity, Thomas's voice filled her ear. Sarah. I'm here. Thomas, are you okay? I heard about the layoffs. It's complicated. I need you to trust me. His voice was steady, but she could hear a hint of urgency beneath it. I just presented a plan that could save your job. We have to believe it can work. Her heart leaped. Really? You're serious? Yes, but it's risky. I don't know what the board will decide. It could cost me everything. Everything? She echoed, mind racing. Her hope fought against the fear that clenched her gut. Yeah, but if it means keeping people like you employed, then I'll fight for it. Tears brimmed in Sarah's eyes. I don't know what to say. I was just about to make a leap into another job offer, one that could secure Jake's future. But hearing this, it makes me believe we can battle for it. Hold on to that faith, Sarah. Your strength is contagious. And, if I can help you keep your job, I won't hold back. As they exchanged words of encouragement, neither realized just how precarious their worlds truly were. The line of bills and futures was about to blur, testing bonds they'd only just begun to forge. Suddenly, just as Sarah was about to respond, she heard a loud crash from the living room. She rushed to find Jake had toppled over the tower of blocks, a wide-eyed look of surprise on his face. Mommy, look! He exclaimed with innocent glee, oblivious to the gravity of adult concerns. In that moment, Sarah's heart swelled with love. She imagined a world where she could be both present for Jake and pursue her dreams. Could Thomas's efforts truly pave the way for that kind of future? As she turned back to the phone, her voice made up, and determination surged through her. Thomas, let us do this together. I want to fight for this. But just then, a message pinged through on her phone. It was a notification about the job offer she was considering, an offer she delaced with hope and desperation. With her heart on the line, would she choose the safe path or be daring alongside Thomas? The path forward blurred with uncertainty, and both their lives hinged on what would come next. As the phone slipped from Sarah's fingers, she stood frozen, staring at the message flashing on her screen. Her heart raced, juggling the weight of her current situation and this new, tantalizing opportunity. Following a job offer felt safe, a path she knew. But risking it all for Thomas's vision felt electrifying, almost like a flame igniting within her. Mommy, look! Jake called again, his laughter breaking through her chaotic thoughts as he picked up the blocks and began to rebuild. He was so content, completely unaware of the storm swirling around both of them. Okay, Jake, she whispered, forcing a smile. She knelt down beside him, matching his energy, as she desperately tried to anchor herself in this moment. But deep down, her mind raced, trying to decide between stability and a chance to fight for something meaningful. Just then, the phone rang again. It was Thomas. She hesitated only a moment before answering. Thomas? I'm glad you picked up. The meeting got really tense. I think I might be shaking things up the way I wanted to. But I need to know you're in. Will you support this? What if it all goes wrong? Sarah asked, her voice trembling slightly. What about Jake? What if I lose everything? Sarah, risk is part of the game. But imagine what we could build if we stand together. We'd be setting an example for everyone who's worried about losing their homes, their future. We won't let fear dictate our choices. His words lit a spark in her heart. She imagined a company culture that cared deeply for its employees, a family rather than a faceless entity. But the fear still gnawed at her. And the investors, Thomas? They won't just stand by for idealism. They want success like anyone else. If we can prove that taking care of our people leads to loyalty and productivity, they may just see what I see. His passion simmered just beneath the surface, and it sent shivers down her spine. Meanwhile, across the table in the meeting room, Thomas felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff. Marcus's eyes narrowed as he leaned forward, tension building. Let us say, for argument's sake, we reconsider layoffs. What's your plan to deliver profit while saving face with the board? It's simple, Thomas said with a hint of confidence. We invest in resilience. We find new ways to innovate based on our employees' strengths. We rally everyone. This company is not just a business, it's a promise to those who rely on us. The murmurs came alive again. Someone spoke from the back. Are you saying we can innovate our way out of this without cuts? Thomas locked eyes with Marcus. Exactly. But I need every one of you on board. His voice rose, fueled by the belief that he could lead a revolution, one rooted in compassion, not fear. Back at home, Sarah exhaled sharply, torn between her instincts and the nagging voice of caution. Thomas, I want to believe in this. I really do. But it's a huge risk. What if other departments resist? What if you lose your position? A long pause followed. It's a risk I'm willing to take. I'll go down fighting for our people, he said, the conviction clear in his tone. We care too much to let it end this way. I need you, Sarah. We can reshape this together. Her breath caught. She pictured Jake's innocent face grinning as he stacked the blocks. She realized no amount of money could replace the sense of belonging and stability she could build for him. Okay, she breathed, letting hope meld with determination. I'm in. But we have to be ready for anything. Suddenly, the reality of her decision hit her like a wave, and the consequences felt intimidating. But then, that flicker of possibility ignited once more, reminding her why she had chosen to fight for this. Just then, the door swung open, and a silhouette appeared in the doorway. A familiar face. Sarah realized it was her neighbor, Jess, holding an envelope. Panic flooded through her. Could this be about that job offer? Would it change everything again? What is it? She asked, her voice trembling as Jess stepped in, a worried look on her face. I think you need to see this. Jess handed her the envelope, and Sarah felt a shiver of dread coupled with excitement. The room felt charged with questions. What could this envelope contain? Would it lead her to a new road, or could it derail the path she had just chosen with Thomas? Sarah, Thomas's voice broke through, what's happening? And just like that, the balance tilted, and everything hung on the edge of uncertainty. Sarah stared at the envelope in her hand, its weight oddly heavy. The edge of the paper felt rough against her fingertips, each crease a reminder of the unknown. Jess watched her with a mix of concern and curiosity, as if trying to decipher the raging thoughts behind her friend's eyes. Open it, Jess urged, her voice steady, yet hushed as if they were sitting in a church on a Sunday morning. With a deep breath, Sarah tore the envelope open, her heart thumping louder with every movement. Inside, a single sheet of paper fluttered out. She unfolded it, her breath catching in her throat as she glanced at the contents. It was a letter from the company that had offered her the job. They were extending the offer, but there was a catch. They wanted her to start immediately, to drop everything and plunge into their world of profit and performance. Just like that, the familiar stability now felt like a gilded cage. "Do you think it's what you expected?" Jess asked quietly, leaning closer, trying to catch a glimpse of the letter. "It's everything I thought I wanted," Sarah responded, her voice barely a whisper. But now just then, Jake's laughter bubbled up behind them, a bright sound that cut through her turmoil. He was still oblivious to the chaos surrounding them. His innocence served as a stark contrast to the life-altering decisions looming just beyond the living room. "Mommy! Look!" he shouted, proudly displaying his block tower, wobbling precariously. Sarah's heart swelled, and for a moment, she was pulled back to the simplicity of being a mother. The choice was simple when it boiled down to Jake. She wanted to model strength and resilience for him, but her gut twisted as she thought about leaving everything this moment, this fight for something bigger, for Thomas. "Sarah?" Thomas's voice broke in once more, filling the silence until it felt almost deafening. "What's happening over there? Is everything okay?" She turned her gaze back to Jess, who looked like she was swimming in uncertainty, gauging Sarah's reaction. "I got the job offer, Thomas," Sarah said finally, her words rushing out with a mixture of relief and fear. "But okay, what's the but?" His urgency was palpable through the phone, but underneath it, she could sense an undercurrent of concern. "It's immediate, and it feels unreal with everything else going on. I thought I could have some time to think," but now her voice faltered, and she glanced at Jake again. The blocks were tumbling down, and he giggled, scattering them across the floor. "You have a choice," he said, his voice steadier now, almost as if they were face to face. "But this isn't just about you or the job. Think about what you believe in. The change we can create together." She took a slow, deep breath and fought back the tears. "I know, but what if I'm making a mistake?" "Sarah, mistakes are part of growth," Thomas replied. "Prioritize what matters most to you. What do you want for Jake? For yourself? We can still build what's right even if it means saying no to the easy road." The weight of the decision settled on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. She pictured a future where they fought against the odds, building something meaningful. But just the thought of letting go of the secure offer sent shivers down her spine. "I need to think," Sarah whispered, squeezing the letter tightly in her hand. "I'll call you back." Jess nodded knowingly, stepping back, giving Sarah space to breathe and think. "Hey," Jess said softly, kneeling down to Jake's level as he began to reconstruct his tower. "You're doing great, bud." But Sarah wasn't quite so sure. Between the growing demands of motherhood and the rising expectations at work, she felt like she was standing at a crossroads, the ground beneath her uncertain. As her thoughts spiraled, her phone buzzed again. Another message from Thomas popped up. What if he's right? She murmured to herself, doubt creeping in once more. And at that moment, while staring at the envelope, the blocks, and the world spiraling around her, she knew she was reaching a pivotal moment, a moment that could change everything. Would she grab the guaranteed job, or risk it all to embrace an uncertain but hopeful future with Thomas? The choice loomed before her, and it wasn't going to be easy. With trembling hands, she stood up, determination flashing in her eyes. But even as she prepared to make the call, another thought struck her, a lingering question that might change everything once more. What if this journey wasn't just about her or even Thomas? What if it was larger than they could imagine? And just like that, the next step hung in the air, a whisper ready to be heard. Sarah's mind whirled, each thought pulling her in a different direction. The letter felt like both a lifeline and a noose. She glanced at Jess, who had turned her attention to Jake, clapping when he managed to balance another block on top of the tower. Watching their shared joy wrapped around Sarah's heart like a warm hug. Do you want to come with me? Sarah blurted out suddenly, the words escaping before she could filter them. The absurdity of the suggestion hung in the air, yet it felt surprisingly right. Jess paused, blinking in surprise. Come with you where? To the job interview, Sarah clarified hastily, her heart racing at the thought. I mean, it's not just any job. It could change everything for us. I could be someone different, not just Jake's mom. Jess nodded slowly, her brow furrowed in consideration. But what about Jake? Wasn't he the whole point of this conversation, to make sure he's okay first? I can't keep living in fear. Sarah exclaimed, a little louder than she intended. Jake looked up, a look of curiosity on his face. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about what I want for him. Jess offered a small smile, sensing the shift in Sarah's resolve. Okay then, let us figure this out together. Just remember that rushing into something because you feel you have to might not be the right answer. Just as she finished, Sarah's phone buzzed again, cutting through the tender moment. It was a message from Thomas. What are you thinking? The words hit Sarah hard. What was she thinking? The allure of the job was strong, yet the implications loomed larger. She looked over at Jake, who was now concentrated on meticulously placing each block with baby steps, his tongue poking out in concentration. I'm thinking about what I want to teach him, Sarah murmured, glancing at Jess. I can't just jump at this job without knowing if it will serve the life I want for him. Exactly. Jess encouraged. You want your choices to teach him, to create a life of purpose together. Is that job part of that journey, or just a detour? Sarah's heart felt lighter amid the chaos, as if the blocks had merged into a solid foundation. What if I can negotiate for more time? Maybe I can open a conversation with them? Just to buy myself a moment to breathe? Now you're thinking outside the box. Jess said, a spark of encouragement in her eyes as she leaned in closer. Reach out and find your voice. Empower yourself first. Taking a deep breath, Sarah opened her phone and started tapping out a message to Thomas, her fingers shaking slightly as she composed her thoughts. She was starting to see glimpses of clarity, little flashes of hope breaking through her initial fear. I'm going to ask for more time, she told Jess decisively. I don't want to make a hasty decision. Jess smiled brightly, the weight of anxiety lifting slightly, replaced instead by the warmth of support. Just then, Jake shouted triumphantly, Mommy! Look at my towers! His laughter echoed, pure joy ringing through the room. In that moment, Sarah realized that this wasn't just about finding a job, it was about finding herself amid the roles she carried. To fight for what truly mattered, the future she hoped to build with her son. As she sent the message, her heart raced with anticipation. What if the company respected her need for time? What if they understood her desire for balance? Would they see her as more than just a candidate desperate for a quick answer? But just as she was about to call Thomas back, her phone rang again. The name flashing across the screen made her breath hitch. It was the HR manager calling. Hello? She answered, her heart racing as she braced for whatever news would come next. But before she could take in the moment, a voice on the other end began to speak, words that could change everything. Sarah, I know you received our letter, but I felt we needed to discuss this further. And just like that, everything hung in the balance. What would they say next? Would it open doors, or close them forever? The moment of truth was here. Thank you for picking up, Sarah. I'd like to talk through some details about the position and how we foresee your fit within the team, the HR manager continued, his tone calm but authoritative. Sarah's pulse quickened. This wasn't the casual chat she expected. Sure, I'd love to, she started, her mind racing in a dozen directions. Was she ready for this? Did she really want this job? Her fingers fidgeted with the corner of the table, each sharp edge anchoring her swirling thoughts. Great. First, I wanted to address how impressed we are with your resume. Your experience as a project manager speaks volumes, but I felt it important to dive a bit deeper and see how you envision balancing the demands of this role with your personal life, he said. Sarah swallowed hard. Well, I'm glad to hear that, she managed, feeling the weight of his words. I've been considering that balance a lot since I received your letter. I really want to make this work, not just for me, but for my son. For a brief silence, she thought she heard the faintest shift in his breath. Family is extremely important to us, Sarah. Are there specific concerns you want to address? The urgency in his voice was almost comforting. Sarah took a leap. To be honest, I'm worried about how the job might affect my time with him. He's my priority. I don't want to compromise on being there for him. Another brief pause followed before he replied, we appreciate that perspective. Our company values work-life balance, and we encourage open dialogue about schedules. How do you see flexibility working for you? It felt surreal to have this conversation. I would love to discuss options. Maybe flexible hours? My son is still quite young, and him having stability is my utmost goal. I want to be there for him, in every sense. Absolutely. His voice was steady, calmer than her beating heart. That's something we can work around. You're not alone in this. Many of us here are parents too. We understand the importance of being present at home. Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her, but it was blended with uncertainty. I appreciate that, she replied, her voice stronger now. It's just I don't want to rush into something without knowing it's right for both of us. Of course. It's a big decision, he said thoughtfully. We respect that. If you need more time to consider, we can absolutely provide that. The tension in her shoulders eased a little. Thank you. I really can't express how much that means to me. As they continued to discuss more details, Sarah felt a spark ignite within her, a scent of hope filling the air. Maybe this was a sign the universe giving her a nudge in the right direction. After they concluded, she hung up and turned to see Jess watching her, eyes bright with curiosity. What did they say? They seemed really understanding. I can't believe it, Sarah replied, the tremor of fear replaced by warmth. They're open to negotiating, maybe even adapting the role to suit my needs. Like, they genuinely care. Wow, that's amazing. Jess beamed, throwing her hands up in excitement. You're already advocating for yourself. That's a huge step. Jake bounced over, his little hands busy rearranging his block tower. Mommy. I made it taller. He cheered. Sarah leaned down, her heart swelling as she hugged him tight. You're doing an incredible job, buddy. Just like Mom is trying to do. That moment of joy was tempered by the uncertainty still wrapping around her thoughts. Was this truly the path that would lead her to find herself again? With a deep breath, she felt both fear and optimism dancing on the tightrope of what lay ahead. As she looked at Jess, who was still grinning, Sarah felt a swell of emotions she couldn't quite pinpoint. What if this is the start of something wonderful or maybe disastrous? She wondered aloud, the truth blooming quietly in her mind. Jess met her gaze, a knowing expression passing between them. Whatever happens, you're not alone in this. You'll navigate it together. But just as she felt poised to grasp the possibilities, her phone buzzed again. A text from Thomas flashed across the screen. Can we talk? I need to discuss some important things. Sarah's heart pounded anew. What did he want to talk about? Could the past disrupt her plans for the future? The path seemed to bend with every turn, leaving her wondering where she'd end up next. The room felt smaller as Sarah stared at her phone, anxiety creeping in. The text was just a few words, yet it carried the weight of her past, a past she had been trying to leave behind. The screen glowed in the dim light of the kitchen, the casual chaos around her fading into silence. What's wrong? Jess asked, her voice tinged with concern. It's Thomas. Sarah hesitated, unsure if she should reveal the roller coaster of emotions churning inside her. They hadn't spoken in months, not since that messy split that had left her unsure of everything: her choices, her future, and her worth. Does he want to meet? Jess's eyes widened, sympathy etched across her face. Are you sure you're ready for that? Honestly, I don't know. Sarah's voice was barely above a whisper. She felt like a pendulum swinging between past regrets and future hopes. It's just I thought I was moving forward. Then don't go backward. If he's just looking to stir things up again. Jess trailed off, letting the implication hang heavy in the air. Sarah nodded but couldn't shake the uneasy feeling gnawing at her insides. She was tired of the cycles of uncertainty, tired of making decisions that pulled her in different directions. But was she also ready to shut him out completely? Maybe it's time to get some closure, Jess suggested gently, sensing the turmoil within her friend. What's the worst that could happen? What indeed? A part of Sarah felt like they were stuck in a loop of unresolved emotions. But in her heart, she also understood that talking to Thomas might also unlock something new, either insight or painful remnants of days past. I might hear something that I need to, she replied finally, determination filtering into her voice. Just remember why you're doing this, Jess reminded her. Jake is watching. You're showing him what it means to stand firm and be true to yourself. Taking a deep breath, she sent a quick reply, sure. When and where? It wasn't long before Thomas responded with a location near a coffee shop downtown. The idea of facing him sent fluttering butterflies through her stomach, but she pushed it aside. What are you going to say? Jess probed, her expression serious. I don't know, Sarah admitted. Maybe I'll just be honest about how I feel. I want to hear him out but with boundaries. I need to focus on Jake and my next steps. As the sun sank lower in the sky, casting long shadows in the room, Sarah felt a wave of uncertainty crash against her resolve. What if he changed everything again? Later that evening, after putting Jake to bed, Sarah stood alone in the kitchen. She glanced at the family photo on the fridge, taken when things felt simpler between her and Thomas. But the truth was similar to that photo: both were in the past. It was time for a new narrative. With each passing minute, her heart hammered. What if this talk opened a door she couldn't close? She felt the tick, tick, tick of time moving closer to their meeting, but alongside it, she also felt the growing strength within herself. As she settled into her thoughts, her phone buzzed again, a reminder of the possibilities waiting on the other side. She glanced down and saw a slew of notifications from work, igniting excitement about the potential job. Sarah smiled faintly, grasping the idea that perhaps her life wouldn't merely define itself by her past relationships. She had choices, she had a path ahead, and she could shape it how she wanted. Yet was she strong enough to find the balance between what was and what could be? The clock ticked closer to her meeting as she finally turned off her phone and resolved to face whatever the future held, both with Thomas and the new job that awaited her. She said a silent prayer, hoping that somehow she could embrace both the light and dark as she stepped into this complex web of tomorrow. As she lay down, fatigue pulled her eyelids heavy, but excitement coursed through her veins like electricity. Would she find answers and the strength to create a new future? Tomorrow would reveal the truth, and Sarah wondered if she was truly ready for what lay ahead. The day had arrived, and Sarah felt like she was suspended in time. As she got ready, every movement felt heavy with tension. The morning sun spilled through the kitchen window, illuminating the space in a warm glow, but it did little to ease the whirlwind churning inside her. She poured a cup of coffee, her hands slightly trembling, and stared at her reflection in the window. Just breathe, she whispered to herself, trying to summon a sense of calm. It was surprising how much a single meeting could shake someone up. She thought about Jake playing in the living room, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in his mother's heart. He was her anchor, the reason she fought to keep moving forward. Today wasn't just about her, it was about showing him that life wouldn't be dictated by fear. After a quick breakfast, Sarah dressed in soft layers that felt comfortable against her skin. The light fabric also served as a shield against the intense weight of the impending conversation. She took a few moments to gather her thoughts, breathing deep, conscious of the need to stay focused. "Okay, Sarah. You've got this," she muttered, grabbing her keys and the small steel charm Jake had given her. It hung around her neck, a reminder that genuine love was the most potent source of strength she had. Moments later, she found herself in her car, nervous energy pulsing through her even as she navigated the busy streets towards the downtown cafe. Her phone buzzed with notifications, but she ignored them. This moment demanded her undivided attention. When she arrived, a wave of sweet coffee aroma greeted her, making her feel almost at home despite the tension brewing in her chest. The cafe was abuzz with chatter, laughter, and steaming drinks. She spotted Thomas right away, seated near the window, his posture relaxed but his eyes scanning the crowd anxiously. As she approached, her heart raced. She couldn't tell if it was fear or anticipation. He looked up, and their eyes met, an energy passing between them that was both familiar and foreign. She noticed the slight crease in his brow, echoing her own feelings of uncertainty. "Hey," she said, keeping her tone light, even as her stomach nodded. "Hey," he replied, standing as she slid into the chair opposite him. His smile was tentative, like he was unsure if they should even be sharing this moment at all. They exchanged small talk, at first casual comments about the weather, reminiscing about their shared love for this little cafe. Still, an undercurrent of tension lingered, reminding Sarah why they were here. "So, why did you want to meet?" She finally ventured, her voice steady, masking the whirlwind of thoughts that clouded her mind. Thomas hesitated, his gaze dropping as if searching for the right words buried somewhere deep within. "I've thought about us a lot, about what happened." A part of her wanted to scream, to demand if he was going to take her down the same path again. But the other part, one that had battled through months of heartache, was curious. "And?" His hand trembled slightly as he leaned forward, eyes earnest. "I realized I never really understood how much I hurt you. I messed up, Sarah. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed you to know that." Sarah's heart beat loud in her ears. For a moment, she felt like she was drifting, beyond the cafe and the noise around them. Here was Thomas, finally acknowledging the pain he had caused. Yet, it wasn't enough. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice low. "Closure? A second chance?" Thomas leaned back, a sigh escaping him. "I just want to be honest. I know I can't change the past, but I want you to find happiness, even if it's not with me." Her chest tightened. It was a simple admission, layered with complexity. The walls she had carefully built around her heart began to tremble. She could feel the weight of this conversation building. And just like that, Sarah found herself at a crossroads. Could she truly leave the past behind, or was it still too entwined with her present? Before she could gather her thoughts, the cafe door swung open, and a rush of cold air brought in someone who echoed the same uncertainty she felt. The moment hung in the air, thick with questions and possibilities. What did he mean by that? Sarah blinked, her heart racing. Maybe today would bring more than just closure. It could be the turning point she didn't know she needed. But how far was she willing to go to face the truth? The moment of distraction faded as Sarah's eyes focused on the new arrival. Her breath hitched in her throat as she recognized the figure, a woman with long, chestnut hair and a confident stride. It was Emma, a childhood friend who had left town years ago and never looked back. Sarah had nearly forgotten about her, but the memories came rushing back like a flickering film reel. "Sarah?" Emma called out, her voice laced with surprise. She approached their table, a bright smile lighting up her face. "Oh my gosh, it's been ages. I can't believe you're here." Sarah managed a smile as the noise of the cafe seemed to dull around them. "Emma. Wow, it's so good to see you. How have you been?" Before Emma could answer, Thomas cleared his throat, looking a bit lost in the mix of their rekindled friendship. He offered a polite smile. "Nice to meet you," he said, reaching out to shake Emma's hand. "Nice to meet you too," Emma replied, glancing back at Sarah with a knowing look. "You're back for a visit? Or is this a permanent thing?" "Just a visit," Sarah responded, feeling the weight of Thomas's words and the openness of the moment entwining. Emma's eyes flicked between Sarah and Thomas, her expression shifting from excitement to curiosity. "I don't want to interrupt anything, but I didn't know you two knew each other," she said, tilting her head playfully. "Looks like a heart-to-heart, huh?" Sarah felt the warmth spread in her cheeks. The last thing she wanted was to explain this awkward reunion, but it felt so refreshing to see someone from her past who didn't carry the emotional baggage. "Something like that," Sarah replied, stealing a glance at Thomas. His expression was unreadable, but the corners of his mouth twitched with a hint of a smile that reminded her of better times. "I'll catch up with you later, then," Emma chirped, giving them both an encouraging nod before stepping away, her energy weaving through the busy cafe like a warm hug. Silence enveloped them again, and Sarah felt the weight of the conversation they were having re-emerge. "I didn't mean to bring her into this," she said, her heart racing. It was nice to see Emma, but now they were back to their heavy exchange. "It's okay," Thomas replied, his voice steady. "She's a good friend, and it's nice to see you reconnect with people who matter." His honesty hung in the air for a moment, and Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that his words weren't just about Emma, they were deeper, reflective of their own situation. "Do you really believe I can find happiness? I mean, after everything we went through?" she asked, the question trembling on her lips. Thomas met her gaze, his eyes searching. "I want that for you, Sarah. The truth is, I never wanted to be the one to hold you back, and for so long, I didn't understand how my actions affected that." The honesty in his words felt like a double-edged sword, cutting through the tension but still raw. Sarah opened her mouth to respond, but her voice seemed caught in her throat. Then, just as she attempted to sort through her thoughts, another wave of noise broke through the café's ambience. The familiar chime of a bell sounded as someone swung open the door again. Faces turned, and for an instant, anticipation and unease filled the café space. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Who else was coming in now? She turned her head, nerves prickling. What if it was someone from her past? The energy shifted, thick with possibilities, each person entering risking revelations that could change everything. What if they recognize me, she thought, bracing herself for whatever was about to unfold. As the figure stepped into the light, Sarah froze, momentarily derailed from the conversation. Who was this person, and what would this mean for her? As the figure stepped into the café, Sarah's heart skipped a beat. It was Mark, her old colleague, a man she never thought she would see again. Dressed sharply in a tailored suit, he exuded confidence, but the last time she had laid eyes on him, the fallout of a messy work project had pushed her to sever ties. She thought they were behind her, a chapter closed. Sarah! What a surprise! Mark exclaimed, a wide grin lighting up his face as he approached their table. His presence felt like a sudden thunderstorm intruding on a quiet afternoon. "Hey, Mark. It's been a while," Sarah replied, trying to keep her voice steady. The complexity of emotions swirling in her chest felt overwhelming. Thomas shifted in his seat, tension in the air palpable. Mark was a reminder of the corporate world she was just about to step out of, and she couldn't help but wonder if this would pull her back. "Are you two business colleagues? Or is this a coffee date?" Mark teased lightly, a playful glimmer in his eye. "It's more complicated than that," Thomas interjected, looking straight into Mark's eyes. There was something fierce in his tone that surprised Sarah. "Ah, I see," Mark replied, his smile dimming a little, as if sensing the storm beneath the surface. "I didn't mean to interrupt. It just looked like a serious chat." "It's okay," Sarah said quickly, wanting to put him at ease. The less involved in her past, the better, but Thomas needed to know it wasn't always so complicated. We were just catching up on life. Life, Mark echoed thoughtfully, glancing between them. You know, I've been thinking about my own life decisions lately. It seems like everyone around me is making changes. The air felt electric, and Sarah's heartbeat matched the rhythm of her clamoring thoughts. Here she was, facing not only the remnants of her past but also a chance to redefine her future. How could she articulate this shift to both men, who occupied such different spaces in her life? Yeah, it's been a transition for many of us, Thomas nodded, his tone softer now, the tension easing slightly. Change can be scary but leads to growth. Mark raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Right? It's easy to get trapped in what's comfortable, even when you know it isn't right. Exactly. Sarah jumped in, her heart fluttering with inspiration. At some point, you have to prioritize what truly matters to you. That's what I'm trying to do for my son, for me. Mark glanced back at Thomas, clearly catching the intensity in their exchange. I can see that. You're looking for stability, Sarah. I am, she affirmed, locking eyes with Mark as clarity seeped into her soul. But stability doesn't have to mean settling. It can mean growth, and that's what scares me. At this, Thomas's face softened, his gaze steady. What if you keep pushing for both? Your fears and your dreams can exist together, but you have to fight for them. The room felt lighter, the air buzzing with possibility as Sarah's point of view sharpened. Here, in this cafe, surrounded by both her past and present, she realized she could reshape her journey however she desired. With newfound determination, she took a deep breath. I want to advocate for a job that values my contributions but also honors my role as a mother. And I want to reconnect with people I admire, like Thomas and even Mark. Mark nodded slowly, his expression shifting toward understanding. Yes. And that's not just bravery, it's wisdom. Surrounding yourself with the right people can redefine everything. Just then, Jake's laughter erupted in her mind, buoying her spirits. She couldn't let fear dictate her choices, especially when the happiness of her son depended on her courage to stand tall. At that moment, the cafe's cozy noise turned into a symphony. Thomas, Mark, and Sarah were caught in a unique bubble of understanding, each reflecting a part of her journey. Whatever you choose, be informed and brave, Thomas smiled, placing a hand over hers in a gesture of solidarity. A blush crept across Sarah's cheeks, a wave of gratitude washing over her. Thanks, she murmured, taking a deep breath. I think I'm ready to take ownership of my life. The conversation shifted, opening the door to all the possibilities that lay ahead, the connections they could nurture and the lives they could build. Together, even if their paths diverged at times, these friendships would walk alongside her through this uncertain maze. Just as the conversation began to ebb, Sarah's phone buzzed. It was another notification about her job progress, but this time, instead of dread, it filled her with hope. I will embrace this next step, she declared, radiating newfound confidence. I'm ready. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden glows across their table, Sarah felt a rush of warmth envelop her heart. Tomorrow would come with its challenges, but fear didn't have to be a part of it. Instead, she would allow the potential of love, career, and community to guide her as she shaped her own path. And just like that, Sarah realized how beautifully tangled their lives had become, woven together through vulnerability and hope. She could feel her future awaiting her, filled with golden opportunities yet undiscovered. It was time to embrace them all. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe now for more incredible stories like this, or you might miss out on the next heartwarming journey. Leave a like today to feed the algorithm and let us know we're on the right track. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who could use some inspiration. Your support makes all the difference. Join our community, and let us shape these moments together.